Hello.
Hi, this is Family Electric Ghost. Are we waiting for somebody else?
Yeah, sorry, my guitarist Hayden.
Okay. We give him like a couple minutes.
Yeah, I was speaking to him just a second ago. He should be here any second.
Well, if it works. So hopefully. It's supposed to be able to do it, but I haven't tried it before. So we'll see. So let's play a little background music while we wait.
Okay, cool.
So let's see. We have Hayden and Jack. Is that everybody?
Yeah. This is just your lot for tonight. Yeah.
Okay, great. So this is Family Electric Ghost, and we interview indie bands from around the world, and we're talking to Florin. You're from Great Britain, right?
Hello.
Yeah, you can hear me?
Yeah. Great.
So you're from Great Britain, right?
Yeah, from Manchester.
Manchester. Okay, cool. And I'm just going to read your biography from your Spotify for a second. Okay.
Okay, yeah.
So it says, taking cues from Kendrick Lamar, Florin tell their own story of life on the streets of Macclesfield. Is that how you say it?
Yeah. Got
Cheshire, with soft-spoken indie rock. You tackle subjects from violent gang warfare to the rising price of Ruddle's best. Florin have found critical acclaim with their groundbreaking verse, chorus, songwriting style. So you guys talked about how you were like your hero, J.K. Rowling. You were sitting in line waiting to get the Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone signed. So that's kind of cool. So I'm looking at your Spotify and looking at your overview. And your latest effort? I'm trying to see. Is it? You have a bunch of records out. You have an EP, right?
Yeah. So there's the 3 songs that are on Spotify are the EP that we just released. So yeah, Look Down was the first song we released from that.
So is the EP Between Each Other's Teeth? Is that the EP?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, our first kind of recording effort.
Yeah, and that's got Look Down, Feather, and When I Go, right?
Yeah, that's it.
Cool.
As you can probably tell, we tend not to take Spotify bios too seriously, so it's a bit tongue-in-cheek.
Well, yeah, you only get paid like less than pennies, then so I'm on there myself, so I know what it's about. But so as an indie, would you categorize yourselves as an indie alternative rock band or something? What would you categorize yourself as?
Yeah, I mean, we're generally kind of happy for other people to do the categorization for us. It's kind of indie rock, whatever.
Yeah, because there's so many people today that are like into electronic and they're DJs and hip hop. I grew up liking like rock bands, and so I still have a deep love of rock bands from like the Velvet Underground to Big Star to the Smashing Pumpkins or Zeppelin or any guys they take the effort to write their own music and try to to really lay down something that they want to put out there and what they're feeling in their music. I've always gravitated to the singer-songwriters and rock bands that do that. So I really dig what you're doing. So maybe you can kind of talk about how you first got into music, how you first got together and working on this project. Maybe give a little bit of a history behind how you got to this, how you got to Florin.
So
yeah, sure.
Yeah. Me and Rob started playing guitar, and he played bass. We played it in his bedroom in Macclesfield when we were like 14, under the name the Bedroom Blasters. Because we're pretty cool. And then I met Jack at college, and he started writing.
We kind of bonded over.
Wisely told us to change our name.
And we bonded over the kind of the bands we grew up listening to, like the Strokes and Arctic Monkeys.
Cool.
The kind of indie bands that that were big as we turned sort of teenagers, and I'd just been writing songs on my acoustic guitar and stuff, and these guys were doing something a bit bigger and more exciting in the band. So yeah, we got together and started playing some gigs, trying to write some music.
So do you guys have like a recording, like someplace like a garage or a basement that you record as a full band?
Well, the tracks we recorded at the Edge studio in Cheshire, but we kind of practice here and there. We used to practice in our drummer's bedroom. So like it's just literally wherever we can.
Wherever you can get the space. Yeah, because it's hard. Like with a lot of the modern music, you can have your Pro Tools or your Ableton Live, and you can do it and not bother anybody.
Yeah.
But like with a full rock band with drummer, bass, guitar, and everything, it's harder to find that practice space. You find it wherever you can. But
exactly. We'd love to have a garage, in the great American tradition, but we don't have that kind of space.
Yeah, I was wondering how it works. Because a lot of times in the U.S., we have basements in the Northeast. I'm in the Northeast of, the United States, and I've always been in, people's garages and basements. It's kind of,
everything's just bigger, more space.
Yeah. You just find places to do that, but it's cool. You find wherever you're going to get into it. But so you said, when did you realize you had a talent for like writing your own? So, I think I was just asking you, like, when did you realize that you had a talent for writing your own music? So we can talk to you about it until he comes in.
Yeah. I don't know. I kind of always grew up with music around the house. My dad played the guitar, and so I always kind of played a bit of guitar. And I was probably about 15, and I can't remember quite what song it was, but I remember like listening to, I think, some David Bowie, and just thinking, I could maybe try and play this and sing this. And kind of within sort of weeks, it turned from something that I'd kind of mess around with every now and then to something that became kind of an obsession. And yeah, it really was about the writing for me. I loved kind of trying to craft new songs and come up with new sounds.
So did you start on a guitar, or you start with that? Is that your primary instrument?
Yeah, definitely.
I think we have your co-bandmates on now. I see him.
Here he is. Yeah.
So we were continuing our discussion on like how did you get into music, and like when did you decide that you could actually write music? So I can ask you the same question.
Yeah. I guess similar to Jack, but I just liked messing around. And at first, I was just covering songs of the bands I loved, primarily Red Hot Chili Peppers, I guess. And then thought it'd be cool if I could write something of my own. So I guess you just got to sit down and do it. Eventually.
So as like a guitar kind of rock band, how did you guys, like before you go to the studio, do you put down your demos in some way? How do you record your demos and stuff? Or do you?
It's kind of it was just on a phone. We tried to put things together on a computer and stuff. And I think, to be honest, because this was our first recording effort, this EP, we learned so much from this process, and kind of just the things we're working on now. Like you start writing songs in a different way. You start planning it differently once you've had that studio experience, because you know what you're working towards in a different way.
So did you primarily, really structure the songs in the studio, or like I talked to some bands and they do like Ableton Live or Pro Tools, and then they go into the studio and then they really take that and stretch it out? But those are more like DJs and electronic and hip hop guys. Yeah. Because I was wondering, with a rock band, do you kind of just put it down on whatever source you can tape, or do you start to use those DAWs and stuff?
I don't know what Hayden would say, but I think we kind of they were quite rough songs, just from playing live or in like a house and stuff before we went to the studio, and the producer there, Mark, really helped us turn them into something more suitable of putting on Spotify.
So you're going with the old traditional model, because when I was like in the basement back in the 80s, because I'm a 50-year-old, we might have a Tascam 4-tracker, and we would use our Tascam, analog tape 4-track and tape our sessions, and then put things together by refining jam sessions. Taking jam sessions and pulling songs out of jams, and then figuring out of like 30 minutes or 60 minutes of jams, did we have some tunes? So is that kind of like the way you were doing it?
We we definitely got some useful things out of just recording jams as well. That's a really good technique, which I'd not thought about doing until I saw a David Bowie exhibition in Barcelona with Hayden, and he talked about that there was a thing in it where he said how we just record like jam sessions with his band for like hours, and just like play it back to find like little few seconds of like brilliant bits that he'd kind of steal. And I think there's no shortcuts really. You just got to put that time in, kind of like mess it.
Definitely. I think we lost your buddy though. We still have Hayden. You still there? I mean, that's a technique. Well, hopefully he'll come back. Maybe that link is still active. It should still be active. If it's not, I'll have to send another one. But a lot of the great bands like the Allman Brothers, Eric Clapton, they all talk about doing these jam sessions that created some of their best work. Is just kind of just sitting there and then pulling out. The Grateful Dead were really famous for that too. It's a really, classic, rock band or, that type of structure. Do that type of work, which I think is very useful in today's world, where a lot of people, totally craft a song within a digital audio workstation. And then sometimes those don't have the kind of life or the kind of feeling that some of the classic, rock songs had. And so I think it's cool that you're still doing that.
Yeah, we do that. And usually Jack will go away and like write a song on his acoustic guitar. Like
I might have to send a new link.
And then...
You see if the link, if that old link doesn't work, I'm going to actually send a text to your Florin band section.
That's fine.
Link may not work. So I might have to actually send a new link for him to get back in.
That's cool.
So I might have to
figure it out.
Yeah, it's fine. Cause one time I had an episode where we had to, these start and stops, but it all strung together. So Don't worry. You're back in?
Yeah, sorry about that. I don't know what happened.
Yeah, it could sometimes, I've never tried having, this is a capability that Anchor says that you can do, but whether or not having the two different people on the same call is, it seems like there's a challenge with that. He just dropped out.
Yeah.
I just want to kind of get into your, but at least we'll try to keep on going and see if you can get back in.
Sure.
So it sounds like your influences, you talked about Bowie, you talked about Arctic Monkeys, you talked about, you also talked about a band I was really into from New York. And now I'm having a brain fart, but I think you were mentioning the Strokes.
Yeah.
The Strokes were really big, probably like around 9/11 time period. 2001, they were really big. They're not as big as they used to be, but I still appreciate their style of music. But, hey, so we got your back. We're still continuing. But I was just talking about the influence of the Strokes. That's interesting because I've talked to a lot of bands in the last year, and not that many actually mention the Strokes. The Strokes are a favorite of mine, but that's kind of interesting that you guys brought that up. And so, like, how much like love do you have for them? I mean, are they a big draw for you?
Yeah, it's just simple, deceptively simple.
Is that what
like
the rhythm
chords and then like a straight riff over the top that just works. Like it's none of it's overcomplicated, is it? But it just sounds.
Yeah, it's kind of like a ska kind of Clash.
Yeah.
Like very pure type of music. It had to be, it was infectious.
Yeah.
It had this infectious beat, and I like the whole style and the whole. But sometimes in music, you do that, and then suddenly it's not in fashion anymore. But classic bands like the Strokes, they're a big draw for me. I show my age. I like bands like Husker Du and the Replacements, and a lot of indie college radio from the early '80s. It's a big draw for me. But
I think they're kind of their style as well. Really, that no frills sort of style just really shows off the writing as well in a really, really good way.
Yeah, I mean, because if you get into a band like Husker Du, I don't know if you're into them as much, but they had this kind of power punk melody. Grant Hart and Bob Mould just had this kind of really pure punk aesthetic that they were doing punk in a way back in the '80s that like no other band was really doing. Then you get Nirvana, but Husker Du was really tearing it up at the time. When they were on SST.
I've not heard of them. Have you got a song to recommend?
Husker Du was a classic American punk band. They were really active in the mid '80s from Minneapolis, and they just had a sound that's very, very like melodic power punk, and it's HUSKERDU. And if you check them out, they had a song called "Books About UFO" from an album called New Day Rising. New Day Rising is a really good record. They have two like double albums.
It's a great name for a song, that.
Yeah, it's like Zen Arcade is this crazy album they did. Was like a double record that they recorded in a warehouse within 48 hours. They just laid everything down in 48 hours. And they just took whatever they had and they recorded it live. And it kind of shows you this raw kind of power. And even though I'm an electronic musician, I've always been very interested in the punk aesthetic that you get from like bands like The Clash and, Husker Du and bands like that just kind of really trigger me in terms of like that kind of purity in sound is something that you can kind of use in industrial music and more advanced synth wave that's kind of aggressive. But so you guys are primarily like are total. You don't really use keyboards or electronics. So you're a pure rock, bass, drum, guitar, right, band?
I think
so far.
I think we want to expand eventually.
I think if you listen really carefully on When I Go, there might be an organ in the background.
Yeah.
That's
cool because a lot of people say like rock is dead, and I don't believe that. I still have a lot of love for rock. Rock and punk is a big part of what I like to listen to. But I think people have to come at it with energy and kind of not repeat maybe the mistakes of why people don't like rock as much anymore. So do you have any feelings about like what's going on in your area of the world? Is like your friends, what are their musical taste? Does it really gravitate toward rock, or are they moving in different directions? Are you finding it easy to get an audience with your music?
I feel like live music in general is just dying around here. Like you don't get people going to gigs and like just gigs of bands they've not heard of all the time and like giving it a chance. There's not really that.
Yeah, is it really more people want to go to like EDM?
Yeah,
DJ,
if they're just if they're gonna go for
it's like a different culture like here to sort of the rest of Europe, where they'll tend to be more open to, I don't know, maybe paying a bit of money to see a band they've not heard of before.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Whereas when it's here, people are kind of maybe a bit more don't want to part with the money to take a risk on a new act or something. You'd
rather see a cover band than to see a new band. Yeah, we run into that parts of the Northeast. Like I live in New Hampshire, and there's you have to go to a club. You got to play the Eagles or Freebird from Leonard Skinner to get anybody to want to hear you. But if you go to Boston or New York, you can play whatever you want. Nice. So it's probably like London. You can probably play whatever you want, but like where you guys are, you might have a harder time.
Yeah, and I get why. I get that people, don't necessarily want to listen to, I don't know, turn up to a gig and it's a guy with just a didgeridoo talking about when he was abducted by aliens or something. But the kind of the madness and the unexpected element is kind of what makes a live music scene great as well. So it's a bit of a shame.
Yeah, it just seems like I would say though, American radio is really bad. That our satellite radio and stuff is okay, but like it seems like the BBC, you guys play more from more genres than what our radio stations do. Our radio stations are still playing like Tom Petty every day. They're still playing like Led Zepp over and over and over, and they don't really give a lot of new music a chance.
Yeah, I mean, you get that on the BBC as well.
Like the same kind of thing going on.
Have to give them their credit, they do have BBC Introducing, which tries to find kind of largely unknown acts and give them a platform.
Yeah, I think you guys give more of a platform than our guys. Our guys just keep on running the 1975 playlist.
I think that's probably fair.
Because I had a conversation. I'm an electronic musician, so I had a conversation with somebody, and they automatically assumed I was a DJ. And then they said, "Well, you have to, bring a CDJ and do a show." And I'm like, I was slightly offended because I'm a musician, and I'm an analog synthesizer player. So I play like Moogs and stuff, and I'm not going to take my Moog sounds and put them on a CDJ and then go in and, barely touch the buttons and be a DJ. I want to play my Hammond. I want to play my Moog, live. And there seems to be a misunderstanding with some people that think that somebody on a CDJ is doing the same thing as somebody on a Moog Model D or a Hammond organ. It's not the same.
yeah, of course.
Yeah, so I mean, I think that's why I've always I love talking to bands like yourself that do like live music. I talked to some guys named The Muted. They're from like the London area, like last year, and they're kind of punky. Their heroes were like Green Day, but they are writing their own music like you guys, and they are writing rock, more punk rock music. But it is cool to actually see young folks like yourself still doing it. Cause like I said, I'm in my 50s, and to see the energy of some of the younger generation still trying to do this alternative, or I would just say if you want to go and write your own music, that's a big step, because there's so many people who just do covers, and learning how to craft songs is a skill. And from the songs I've heard on your EP, you guys gotta have a good sound. You have a very good sound. And,
thanks a lot, man.
And I was listening. I was listening a lot today. I'm going to be pushing it out. And we'll put the links to all your music on this podcast. And this podcast goes out on like 12 different platforms, including Spotify, Apple, Stitcher, Google. There's many platforms this goes out. And right now we're hitting about 10K in listeners on our platform.
That's awesome.
So hopefully this will give you a boost, because I'm really excited when I see people actually still writing music. Though I talk to lots of different artists, because you don't want to like limit who you talk to, but it always excites me when I hear bands actually like yourself actually doing what you guys are doing. So are you guys working on another record, or are you working on touring, or are you working on trying to do gigs?
Yeah, we're working on getting some different music down. We like we were saying before, we want to incorporate some of the keyboard stuff in there. I think
the recording process of this first EP taught us so much. Like there was so much we didn't understand when we went in, and that experience has made us really think, we want to try a few different things, something a bit more ambitious, maybe something, I don't know, something a bit crazier sounding,
So have you thought about, because of the way the world is today, have you thought about collaborating with like DJs and electronic musicians or female singers? Have you thought about doing things like that to like bring that in, or are you just trying to expand your sound within your own, the way you're set up right now?
I mean, I don't think we'd thought about it too much. We'd always be open to collaborating. I think the last person we did anything with outside of the band was I think my sister recorded some backing vocals on a demo we did a while back. But yeah, I think we're always open to working with other people.
Yeah, because I've seen that like there's a lot of merging of genres today, and but you guys have a really good sound. So I would just like to hear like a full record of the current sound you have on your EP, because it's and if you added some keyboard flourishes there, maybe modular synth or analog, because I'm a big analog guy, and I understand all the digital synths out there and I use them, but the analog sound kind of goes with like guitars. If you use modular synths, just as a synth guy, using a modular analog synth with your type of music, I think would really add to it compared to using like a digital plugin. It'd be worthwhile to actually use the analog sounds, I think, because they just are very distinctive, and can give you like an edge. But that's just my opinion. But
well, we trust your opinion.
Analog's always better. Analog's always better.
Yeah. Just even if you go and you master your record on an analog soundboard, or your mastering process is using analog like compressors and just mastering tools rather than the digital, especially with a rock band, I think you get a better breadth of the signal. The signal you just like. For my example, I use Moogs. If you take a Moog and put it into FL Studio or Ableton Live, it cuts off half the signal, and then you don't even hear what it really sounds like. So you have to, if you're using analog instruments, it's better to try to do analog recording with them. But some people, it's harder. It costs more money. It depends on it. If you go to a studio that happens to have that capability, it's cool. You can find the guys that have that. It's always, to me, it just sounds warmer. It sounds better. And, people argue back and forth which way is better, but I'm always going to kind of go on the analog side.
Yeah. I mean, I think it wasn't so much that we had, I don't know, like specific instruments we wanted to put in. I think it was just that we kind of, Mark Winterburn, the guy who produced our stuff, was just so great at kind of showing us how the studio can be, an instrument in itself. And we just thought, right, next time we want to really utilize that differently, and how we structure songs from the beginning and stuff.
Yeah, because I mean, George Martin was like the fifth Beatle. He was like using the studio as an instrument,
Yeah, exactly.
If you get bands like Big, if you know about Big Star, but Big Star was like an American copy of the Beatles, and they had this guy. It was like Alex Chilton was a famous singer in a band called the Box Tops, and he made an American version of the Beatles called Big Star. And he had this guy, Chris Bell, was a big devotee of George Martin, and he actually did a lot of studio techniques that were mirroring what George was doing in terms of using the studio as an instrument, and that is a really cool concept that people shouldn't lose out on. In this day and age where people have Ableton Live and all the other tools, like a real studio, you can do so much. It's still worth it to try to go that way. So I'm glad you guys you're going in that direction.
Yeah, for sure.
So what are your thoughts on the future of music? I know we've been talking about it a little bit, but like, where do you see music going in the next couple of years based on your area of the world?
Wow, future of music. What do you reckon, Hayden? I mean, I think, like you said, I see just more kind of mixing up of genres. But I don't know. I think there's always going to, things come in cycles, and I think there's always going to be a place for kind of the classic sounds that have always been kind of popular and rock and stuff like that. I think there's always going to be a place for that.
Yeah, I think people will always pick up a guitar and play a guitar. That won't change.
Yeah, I think I think rock is not dead for all the people who say it's dead. they're always being, everybody's looking for the next Nirvana, or they're looking for the next, big, rock band like an AC/DC or something that's going to really be able to kick it. But, nobody expected in the 80s like a band like Def Leppard to come out. And that came out of nowhere. Nobody expected Guns N' Roses. So sometimes these bands just come out because they're guys that are just playing at a level and you can't stop them. And it just blows through, even though everybody says the genre is dead, and it comes back. And so I see that's how I feel about it. And just being a synth player, I've seen new wave sounds coming back in bands like the Churches, being able to do this kind of synth wave, new wave sound. And so people thought it was dead, and that type of music is really pushing it all over the world. And that I think that's emerging of some of all the new synthesizer stuff that's out there now, because Moog and Prophet and all these modular gears allowing people to build really classic sounds from the 1970s, and bring that into their music today. And it's being brought into hip hop and jazz and rock and everywhere. So I think it's going to be a lot of people not just using plugins, but actually using hardware synths in their music, and bringing those tones into their music. I think that's, on top of it, like mixing poetry and hip hop and jazz and all these different things. I think that's what I've been seeing is that seems to be the trend, is that shouldn't be a wall between genres. There's a lot of merging. And I think bands that pick up on that, kind of like what happened with the Clash, with Sandinista.
Yeah.
They went from the kind of pure rock pure punk they were doing, and then they found ska, and they found Caribbean, African beats, and when bands do that, they kind of expand the sound.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and I think that as well. It's just, and I think it's just like recording and communicating becomes easier and cheaper. It's just, you're right, it's going to happen more and more. Those, as you say, those kind of walls break down.
Like collaborations. I've done collaborations in New Hampshire with people in LA, and I never even went to LA. I actually did a whole record with an LA female artist, and we recorded a record between our home studios. We did a record, and that type of collaboration you can do worldwide. And so there's a lot of capability now of people sending tracks, over the net, and then bringing it into their home studio and doing overdubs and being able to actually work on projects that you would have never thought you could work on, So I think that opens up the door to a lot of people, working together in ways that maybe people didn't consider.
Yeah.
So are you guys working on any kind of music videos or anything on your your online presence, for the whole world's on YouTube and Instagram? Have you looked into different ways of promoting your band?
Well, we'd love to have the money to put together a proper video, but there's a short film from I've forgotten the name of the film now. Hayden, sorry, do you remember the name of the short film we used for the music video?
For Look Down?
Yeah,
it was the
Boy and Bicycle. That
wasn't it? It was Who's Its first film?
Cool.
Ridley Scott's, Ridley Scott's
first film.
It was we did as a student in Hartlepool, where my family's from, in the northeast, and it's a really cool little film. So we had no money to make a video, and that was on the BFI. It's like a kind of Creative Commons license thing, So
so you used some of that film, and then you we
kind of
created a video
just
with that,
cut it around a bit, and made that, and we were really kind of happy with how it turned out. Actually,
it works really well.
That's a good technique.
Really well.
That's a classic technique. It's a good way that you use common footage that's not copyright protected anymore, that, then you can actually get your music out on YouTube. You get it on Instagram, you get it on these different channels. Because now even Instagram has up to like 10-minute videos.
Yeah.
That you can put up. And so getting your music on these visual forms is really key to getting people to pay attention. And even like recording a gig like on an iPhone through like a roll and go mixer, and then pushing up like a Facebook Live performance from like your, like, if you really get that, something tight and you're practicing, you could record your rehearsals and put them up on like Facebook Live, and then get people really into your band. And it's kind of like they get to see like the gig before the gig.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's something we talked about a little bit more as we kind of, as the sort of the new project gets going a bit, kind of try and involve people more in that creative process, and as we're working towards, gigs in the studio, like giving people more insight into what we're doing, sort of.
Yeah, just getting a tripod, and getting your iPhone, get like a roll and go mixer, and then do a live stream of you guys like recording once you have got a good track or something. That kind of involvement with your fans, they can get really into it, and so it can give you a presence that's like there, get people involved in your process, and I recommend it because it's something I actually do, like Facebook Live performances for my home studio.
Oh, sweet.
And I can get sometimes I get 3,000-4,000 people listening, and it's a good way to kind of practice before I do a gig. I'll do my gig set list on Facebook Live before I even go to a gig. And then I kind of am able to perfect it because I'm actually playing live. I'm just playing live from my home studio. But yeah, I mean, as a keyboardist, it might be easier because I can take the soundboard and nobody hears anything, and it just goes right into the phone. As a rock band, it's probably harder to do that. But there are ways.
Drums might be tricky, but I'm sure there are ways.
Yeah, the drums are harder to capture unless you've got some good mixers and mics to pull them in. But there's things you can do. I mean, you could always go with like acoustic performances, and push them up on Facebook, and that's kind of intimate, and people, I think, dig that.
Yeah, get the hot rods on the go.
Yeah, you can kind of do that. Do an acoustic version, a demo version of the song or something, just play it on acoustic, and even playing with your sticks on the drum, just kind of tapping them out on a snare, and not having to do something as big. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There are things you can do that don't have to be very expensive, that can still reach your fans.
Yeah, we've done a few videos like that. We did we recorded a few when we went to Brazil, like just on the beach, a few acoustic covers and stuff, which cost next to nothing, and then got us that engagement. Yeah,
it's just, it seems like you got to give stuff to the kids a lot today. They got to see your presence constantly. And if you're a band, it takes a while to do something. It's harder to do that. But it's just cool to see you guys out there, doing your craft, and you're working and you're perfecting it and you're learning. And that's, every musician, you learn your whole career. The ones that keep on going, they learn how to reinvent themselves. They learn how to change. Bowie was probably, you mentioned Bowie. Bowie's like the king of that.
Yeah, completely.
Yeah, and that's just amazing. To his last record, he just continued to redefine himself.
He was like a different musician every album.
And that's always been a big draw to me. Guys like that, guys like Lou Reed, Dylan, Hendrix, people who really just put it all. And I think as a musician, it's like when you're doing it, you do it because you love it. You do it because you have something to say, and that's why I feel like, I like to talk to the young folks, doing music, because you can hear new things going on. And I hear some really cool things in your music, and I hope you keep on going, and just keep on pushing. If you have other projects that are ready, you can always come back on the show.
Oh, thanks. Well, yeah, we're still excited. Like you say, learning lots. And we'd love to come back sometime.
Yeah, it'd be a pleasure, man.
Yeah. Anytime you got like a new project you want to push, give me a ring. I'm going to push this out with all your Spotify links. If you got any YouTube links you want me to to kick out, let me know.
Yeah, we'll send you a message.
And I can actually put like a lot of links on this. So send me as many as you can, and I'll fit everyone I can into the project. I'll be pushing this out tonight, so if you can send me some of those tonight, that'd be cool. I can't update this, so if you don't send me all of them today, I can get them in there later. But yeah, I really enjoyed talking to you, Hayden and Jack from Florin, and you guys keep on pushing. Keep on rocking in a free world, as Neil Young said.
Yes. Thank you very much, pal.
Okay. Yeah, have a good night.
You too. And you. Thanks a lot.
Okay, bye. This is Bam Electric Ghost and our latest album, The Flower That Blooms at Midnight in the Tomb, featuring the track Lollipop All Day Sucker, is available on all streaming services, including Amazon, Tidal, Apple Music, iTunes, Spotify, YouTube Red, and many, many more. So check us out. The Lollipop video is on YouTube. All these, that's the first track on the album. So check out Bam Electric Ghost, The Flower That Blooms at Midnight in the Tomb, available now on all streaming services.